I learned that fear is a terrible leader. It works for a little while, but it breaks people in the end. Kindness builds things that last. I learned that rules are there to guide us, not to blind us. Miss Halloway followed the rules, but she lost her humanity. Arthur broke the rules, and he saved a company. Getting fired was the most painful moment of my life. I felt worthless, but if I hadn't been fired, I would still be an assistant, terrified of the clock. I would never have met Arthur. I would never have found my voice. Before I continue with what happened next, I want to thank you for listening to my story. Drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from. I'd love to know who's sharing this journey with me today. My name is Jamie. I was fired for being late, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Getting fired in front of everyone became the best thing that ever happened to me, and how staying calm, thinking smarter, and playing the long game led to a downfall so poetic she never saw it coming. The rain that morning was the kind that soaked you to the bone in seconds. It pounded against my bedroom window like a warning. I stared at the gray sky and felt a heavy rock settle in my stomach. It was Tuesday. At Miller & Sons, Tuesday meant the weekly accountability meeting. My boss, Miss Halloway, loved these meetings. She used them to point out our mistakes in front of everyone. I looked at the microwave clock. 7:15 a.m. I had exactly 45 minutes to drive downtown, park, and get to the 15th floor. If I walked in at 8:01 a.m., the conference room door would be locked. That was her rule. If you aren't 5 minutes early, you're late, she always said. I grabbed my bag and a cold piece of toast. My hands were shaking a little. I really needed this job. My rent had just gone up, and my mom's medicine was getting more expensive every month. I couldn't afford a third strike. I already had 2 write-ups for tiny things. One was for using the wrong color highlighter. Just move, Jamie, I told myself. I ran out to my car. The engine coughed before starting. I gripped the wheel and pulled onto the wet road. The traffic was already backing up. Red brake lights stretched forever. I checked the time. 7:25 a.m. It was going to be close. I took the shortcut through the old factory district. The roads there were full of potholes, but it was the only way to avoid the bridge traffic. My little sedan bounced over the bumps. I was making good time. The clock read 7:40 a.m. I was going to make it. Then I saw the car. It was a fancy black car pulled over on the muddy shoulder. It was leaning to one side, a flat tire. An older man was standing next to it in the pouring rain. He was wearing a suit, but he looked soaked and confused. He was trying to turn a lug wrench, but he slipped in the mud and almost fell. I drove past him. I had to. If I stopped, I would be late. If I was late, Miss Halloway would fire me. It was simple math. I kept driving for about 10 seconds, but my stomach hurt. I thought about my grandfather. If he were stuck in a storm, would I want someone to drive by? I looked in the rearview mirror. The man was holding his chest. He looked scared. "No," I whispered. "I can't leave him." I slammed on my brakes. My tires skidded on the wet pavement. I threw the car into reverse and backed up toward him. I checked the clock. 7:45 a.m. I was throwing my job away. I jumped out of my car. The rain was freezing. "Sir," I yelled over the wind, "are you okay?" The man looked up. He had silver hair and kind, tired eyes. He looked relieved to see me. "My phone is dead," he said, his voice shaking, "and I can't get this bolt to move. I'm not as strong as I used to be." "Get in your car," I said. "It's too cold. I'll do it." "But your clothes," he said, looking at my office slacks. "You're dressed for work." "It's fine," I lied. It wasn't fine. "Please, sit down." He got into the passenger seat. I grabbed the tire iron. It was rusted and slippery. I pushed with all my weight. The bolt screeched and finally turned. I worked as fast as I could. Mud splashed onto my shirt. Grease covered my hands. My shoes were filling with water. It took 10 minutes to change the tire. When I finished, I was shivering and dirty. The man rolled down his window. "Thank you," he said. "You have no idea how important it was for me to get to my meeting." "Just pay it forward," I said. I checked my watch. 7:58 a.m. It was over. "I have to go. I'm late." "What's your name?" he asked. "Jamie," I shouted, running to my car. The drive to the office was a blur. I didn't care about the speed limit. I just wanted to get it over with. I knew what was waiting for me. Ms. Halloway didn't care about excuses. She didn't care about good deeds. She cared about control. I parked my car at 8:10 a.m. I ran to the elevator. My wet shoes squeaked on the floor. People in the lobby stared at me. I looked like a disaster. My hair was plastered to my head, and there was a black smudge of grease on my cheek. I pressed the button for the 15th floor. The numbers counted up slowly. 12, 13, 14. Ding! The office was quiet. Everyone was in the conference room. Sarah, the receptionist, looked up from her desk. Her eyes went wide when she saw me. She pointed to the closed conference room door. She shook her head slowly. "She's in a mood today," Sarah whispered. "She's already yelled at Mike." "I know," I said. My heart was pounding in my throat. I walked toward the heavy wooden doors. I could hear Miss Halloway's voice inside. She was talking about efficiency. I took a deep breath. I reached for the handle. This was it. I was about to walk into the lion's den. I pushed the door open. The room went silent instantly. 20 of my coworkers turned to look at me. Miss Halloway was standing at the head of the long table. She froze, her laser pointer hovering over a chart on the screen. She slowly turned to face me. Her eyes were cold. She looked me up and down, taking in my wet clothes and the mud on my pants. "Well," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm, "look who decided to join us. It's 8:12, Jamie. You are 12 minutes late." "I'm sorry, Miss Halloway," I said. I tried to stand tall, even though I was dripping water on the carpet. "I had an emergency. I stopped to help someone on the side of the road. Their car had a flat tire in the storm." She laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. "A flat tire. That is the oldest excuse in the book. Do you really expect me to believe that you decided to play hero instead of coming to work?" "It's the truth," I said. "I don't pay you for the truth, Jamie. I pay you to be punctual. This is your 3rd strike. You know the policy. 3 strikes and you are out." "Please," I said. "I've never missed a deadline." "You are fired," she said loudly. "Pack your things and leave now." The room was so quiet I could hear the hum of the projector. My face burned with shame. I looked at my coworkers. Mike looked down at his notebook. Nobody said a word. They were all too afraid of her. They knew if they defended me, they would be next. "Did you hear me?" Miss Halloway barked. "Get out of my conference room. You are disrupting the meeting." "Okay," I whispered. I turned around and walked out. The door clicked shut behind me. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. I walked to my desk. It was covered in sticky notes and photos of my family. I had a little cactus I had kept alive for 3 years. I grabbed a cardboard box from the supply closet. I started putting my things in it. My stapler, my mug, my mom's picture. My hands were shaking. Sarah watched me from her desk. She looked like she wanted to cry. "I'm so sorry, Jamie," she mouthed. "It's okay," I said, though it wasn't. I packed everything in 5 minutes. I didn't want to stay a second longer. I took my box and walked to the elevator. I felt small. I felt worthless. Miss Halloway had won. She had taken my livelihood away because I was 12 minutes late. I walked out of the building. The rain had stopped, but the ground was still wet. I couldn't bring myself to go to my car yet. I sat down on the curb outside the office. I put my box next to me and buried my face in my hands. What was I going to do? I had bills to pay. I had no savings. Finding a new job would take weeks, maybe months. How would I tell my mom? She was so proud of me for working at a big company like Miller & Sons. I sat there for 20 minutes feeling sorry for myself. I watched the busy city move around me. Everyone else had somewhere to go. I had nowhere. Suddenly, a sleek black limousine pulled up to the curb right in front of me. I ignored it. I thought it was just some executive arriving late. The rear window rolled down. "Jamie?" a voice asked. I looked up, wiping my eyes. It was the man from the rain. But he looked different now. He wasn't wearing the wet, muddy jacket. He was wearing a fresh, expensive suit. He looked powerful. "Sir?" I asked, confused. "What are you doing here?" He replied, "I work here. Well, I own the building. Why are you sitting on the curb?" I stood up slowly. You own the building?" "I'm Arthur Miller," he said, "of Miller & Sons." My jaw dropped. Arthur Miller was a legend. He was the founder. Everyone thought he had retired to an island somewhere. I had just changed a tire for the most important man in the company. "I see," I stammered. "Answer my question, Jamie," he said gently. "Why are you outside with a box of your things?" "I got fired," I admitted. I looked down at my muddy shoes. "I was late because of the tire. My boss, Miss Halloway, didn't want to hear the excuse. It was my 3rd strike." Arthur Miller's face changed. The kindness in his eyes turned into something else. It looked like anger, but not at me. "She fired you for stopping to help me?" "She didn't know it was you," I said quickly. "She just knew I was late." "That makes it worse," Arthur said. He opened the car door and stepped out. He was tall. "Grab your box, Jamie." "Where are we going?" I asked. "We are going back upstairs," he said. "I think I need to attend this weekly accountability meeting." "But she'll call security," I said nervously. "Let her try," Arthur said. "Follow me." Walking back into the lobby felt like a dream. The security guard, who usually ignored me, jumped out of his chair when he saw Arthur. "Mr. Miller," the guard shouted. "Good morning, sir." "Good morning," Arthur said. He didn't stop walking. He led me straight to the elevators. My heart was racing again. This time it wasn't fear. It was adrenaline. I was going back up to the 15th floor with the owner of the company. "I haven't visited this branch in a year," Arthur said as the elevator climbed. "I wanted to do a surprise inspection. I wanted to see how the management treats their people. I think I found my answer on the side of the road." "Miss Halloway is very strict," I said. "There is a difference between strict and cruel," Arthur said. "You risked your job to help a stranger. That is the kind of character I want in my company. We can teach skills. We cannot teach heart." The elevator dinged. We stepped onto the 15th floor. Sarah gasped when she saw us. She stood up so fast her chair rolled backward. "Mr. Miller," Sarah squeaked. "Hello," Arthur said. "Is the meeting still going on?" Yes, sir, Sarah said. Arthur turned to me. Lead the way, Jamie. We walked down the hallway. I felt like I was floating. We reached the heavy wooden doors of the conference room. I hesitated. Open it, Arthur whispered. I pushed the doors open again. Miss Halloway was still talking. She looked up, annoyed. When she saw me, her face turned bright red. Jamie, she screamed, I told you to leave. This is trespassing. I am calling the police right now. She grabbed her phone from the table. She was so focused on me that she didn't see the man standing behind me. That won't be necessary, Arthur said. His voice was deep and calm. He stepped into the room. Miss Halloway froze. Her phone slipped from her hand and clattered onto the table. Her eyes bugged out. The blood drained from her face. Mr. Miller, she choked out. Good morning, Arthur said. He walked to the head of the table. Miss Halloway scrambled out of his way. Please, everyone, stay seated. The room was silent. You could hear a pin drop. Mike looked at me with his mouth open. I apologize for the interruption, Arthur said, but Jamie here tells me she was fired this morning. Yes, sir, Miss Halloway stammered. She was late. It was a disciplinary action. We have a strict policy. I know the policy, Arthur said. I wrote it. Arthur looked around the room. He looked at every single employee. Then he looked at Miss Halloway. Do you know why she was late? Arthur asked. She had some story about a flat tire, Miss Halloway said dismissively, but excuses are irrelevant, sir. We need reliability. She was late, Arthur said clearly, because she stopped in a rainstorm to help an old man who couldn't change his own tire, an old man who was cold and wet and had a dead phone. Arthur paused for effect. I was that old man. A collective gasp went through the room. Miss Halloway looked like she was going to be sick. She grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. You? She whispered. Me, Arthur confirmed. Jamie didn't know who I was. She didn't stop for a reward. She didn't stop to impress the chairman. She stopped because it was the right thing to do. She ruined his clothes and risked her job to help a stranger. Arthur picked up my box from where I had set it down. He placed it gently on the table. And you fired her for it, Arthur said. His voice was hard now. If you had known it was me, you would have given her a promotion. But because you thought she helped a nobody, you punished her. I didn't know, Miss Halloway pleaded. That is exactly the problem, Arthur said. Character is how you treat people who can do nothing for you, Arthur continued. You have failed that test, Miss Halloway. I have been looking at the numbers for this branch. Production is high, but morale is the lowest in the company. Now I know why. I was just trying to be efficient, Miss Halloway cried. I did it for the company. You did it for yourself, Arthur corrected her. You created a culture of fear. People are afraid to be human here. That ends today. Arthur pointed to the door. Pack your things, Miss Halloway. You are relieved of your duties. You can't fire me, she shrieked. I've been here 5 years. And you fired Jamie after 5 minutes, Arthur said. It's at-will employment, correct? That's what you told him? The rule applies to you, too. Miss Halloway looked around the room for support. No one moved. No one spoke. She had burned every bridge she had. She realized she was alone. She grabbed her laptop and her bag. She glared at me with pure hatred as she walked past. Goodbye, Linda, Arthur said. The door clicked shut behind her. The room let out a breath it had been holding for years. The monster was gone. Arthur sat down in Miss Halloway's chair. He smiled at the team. I'm sorry about the drama, he said. Let's start over. He turned to me. Jamie, take your box back to your desk. Actually, don't. I froze. Sir? You're not going back to that desk, Arthur said. We need a new branch manager, someone who understands that people come before spreadsheets. I laughed nervously. Sir, I'm an assistant. I'm not qualified. Skills can be taught. Decency cannot. You have the respect of your peers. He looked at the room. Would you work for Jamie? Yes, Mike shouted immediately. Absolutely, Sarah said from the doorway. He's the only one who helps us, another coworker added. Arthur nodded. See, you are already a leader. You just didn't have the title. Will you take the job? I looked at Mike. I looked at Arthur. I thought about my mom and the bills. Yes, I said. I'll take it. Good, Arthur said. It comes with a significant raise and a covered parking spot. You won't have to run in the rain anymore. The room erupted in applause. For the first time ever, the weekly accountability meeting ended with cheers instead of silence. The rest of the day was a blur. Security escorted Miss Halloway out of the building. Arthur stayed with me all afternoon. He sat in my new office, Miss Halloway's old office, and showed me the ropes. We found files that Miss Halloway had hidden. She had been cutting corners on safety checks to save money and boost her bonus. She was risking everyone's safety, Arthur said, frowning at a report. This is why we don't lead with fear. People hide mistakes instead of fixing them. We'll fix it, I promised. I'll schedule a safety inspection for tomorrow. Good, Arthur said. You're learning fast. By 5 p.m., I was exhausted but happy. I walked Arthur to his car, the one with the new tire. Thank you, Arthur, I said, for everything. You saved yourself, Jamie, he said. I just opened the door. Oh, and Jamie. Yes? Don't let the power go to your head. Remember what it felt like to sit on that curb. I will, I said. I'll never forget it. I watched him drive away. I went back upstairs. I had a lot of work to do, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid of Monday. The first week was hard. I had to hire new people and fix the safety issues, but the atmosphere in the office changed overnight. People started talking to each other. They laughed in the break room. I made a new rule: no locked doors. If you were late, you just had to text me. One morning, Mike came in at 8:15 a.m. He looked terrified. I'm so sorry, Jamie, he said. My kid was sick. I had to wait for the babysitter. He expected me to yell. He expected a write-up. Is he okay? I asked. What? Mike asked. Your kid. Is he okay? Yeah, it's just a cold, Mike said, relaxing. Go get some coffee, Mike. Get to work when you're ready. Mike smiled. Thanks, boss. That small moment meant everything. The team started working harder. They stayed late not because they were scared, but because they wanted to finish their projects. Productivity went up. Miss Halloway had thought fear was the best motivator. She was wrong. Respect was stronger. A few weeks later, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? Jamie, it's Linda Halloway. My stomach tightened. What do you want, Linda? I want to warn you, she said. Her voice sounded slurred. I'm talking to a lawyer. You and that old fossil aren't going to get away with this. Go ahead, I said. I felt calm. We found the fake safety reports, Linda. Arthur's legal team is already looking at them. If I were you, I'd worry about jail, not a lawsuit. There was a long silence on the other end. You ruined my life, she whispered. You ruined it yourself, I said. You treated people like garbage. It caught up to you. I have nothing, she said. I'm losing my house. I didn't feel happy about that. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt sad for her. She had spent so much energy being mean that she had nothing left when her title was gone. I have to go, Linda, I said. Good luck. I hung up. I looked at the cactus on my big mahogany desk. It was blooming. I realized I didn't hate her anymore. I pitied her. She was a lesson in what not to be. 3 months later, Arthur returned for the quarterly review. The entire team was waiting in the conference room. We had ordered pizza. I stood up to present. Revenue is up 15%, I said. Employee turnover is 0. Customer satisfaction is the highest it's ever been. Arthur nodded, looking proud. And the safety checks? 100% compliant, I said. Excellent, Arthur said. It seems my tire was the best investment I ever made. Everyone laughed. The tension that used to fill the room was gone. We were a team now. After the meeting, Arthur pulled me aside. I have a challenge for you, he said. What is it? I want you to speak at the annual company gala, he said. I want you to tell your story. Me? I asked. In front of everyone? Yes, Arthur said. People need to hear it. They need to know that good guys can finish first. I agreed. I was nervous, but I knew he was right. It wasn't just my story. It was a story about how business should be. A week before the gala, it was raining again. I was sitting in my office watching the water run down the glass. Sarah buzzed me. Jamie? There's a woman here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment. Who is it? It's Ms. Halloway. I hesitated. I could have sent her away. I could have called security. That's what she would have done. Send her in, I said. Linda walked in. She looked terrible. Her suit was wrinkled. She looked 10 years older. She didn't look like a monster anymore. She looked like a tired, broken person. Hello, Jamie, she said quietly. Linda, I said. Sit down. She sat. She looked around the office. She saw the team laughing outside the glass walls. I can't get a job, she said. Word got around. Arthur blacklisted me. Arthur told the truth, I said. I know, she said. I need help. I have nowhere else to go. She looked at me with desperate eyes. The woman who had fired me for being 12 minutes late was now begging me for help. I looked at her. I remembered the shame I felt walking out with my box. I remembered sitting on the curb. I wanted to tell her to leave. It would feel good to kick her out. It would be justice. But then I remembered Arthur. Character is how you treat people who can do nothing for you. If I kicked her out, I would be just like her. I can't hire you here, Linda, I said. The team wouldn't accept it, and I don't trust you yet. She slumped in her chair. I understand. But, I said, I know a guy who runs a logistics center in the next town. He needs a warehouse manager. It's hard work. It's not a fancy office. She looked up. You would help me? I'm not doing it for you, I said. I'm doing it because I don't want to be the kind of person who kicks someone when they're down. I wrote a name and number on a sticky note. Call him. Tell him Jamie sent you. But Linda... Yes? If you treat one person badly, if you yell at one employee, he will fire you. I'll make sure of it. She took the note. Her hand was shaking. Thank you, she whispered. The night of the gala was sparkling. There were chandeliers and expensive suits everywhere. I stood backstage, adjusting my tie. My hands were sweating. You'll do great, Arthur said, patting my shoulder. I walked out onto the stage. The spotlight blinded me for a second. I saw hundreds of faces looking at me. A year ago, I started, my voice echoing in the hall. I was fired for being late. I told them the whole story. I told them about the rain, the flat tire, and the fear. I told them about the curb. "We are all so busy running," I said. "We are terrified of falling behind. We are terrified of our bosses. But fear is a bad fuel. It burns out." I looked at the crowd. Arthur Miller taught me that business isn't just about profit, it's about people. If you see someone on the side of the road, stop, even if you're late, even if it costs you, because the things you stop for are the only things that matter. The applause was thunderous. I saw people wiping tears from their eyes. 2 years passed. I was promoted to regional director. I had a nicer car and a nice apartment. My mom was healthy and happy. It was a Tuesday. It was raining. I was driving to a board meeting. I was on the highway listening to music. I saw a car pulled over on the shoulder, hood up, steam rising. It was a young woman. She was pacing back and forth, talking frantically into her phone. She looked like a college student. I smiled. I checked my watch. I had 30 minutes before the meeting. It was a very important meeting. I didn't hesitate. I pulled over. "Need a hand?" I asked, rolling down the window. She looked at me with wide, terrified eyes. "My engine overheated. I'm going to be late for my interview. It's my dream job." "Hop in," I said. "I'll drive you." "But your car," she said. "It's just a car," I said. "Where are you going?" "Miller and Sons," she said. "I have an interview with the regional director." I laughed, a deep belly laugh. "Well," I said, "you're in luck. I think he'll forgive you for being late." We drove to the office. She was so nervous. She kept rehearsing her answers. She didn't ask my name. When we pulled into the garage, I parked in the spot marked Regional Director. She looked at the sign. She looked at me. Her face went pale. "Wait," she said. "I'm Jamie," I said, "and you're hired." "What?" she asked. "You haven't even interviewed me." "You cared enough to panic," I said, "and you were polite even when you were stressed. That's the interview." We walked to the elevator. "But what about my car?" she asked. "We'll call a tow truck," I said, "and we'll pay for the repairs. Consider it a signing bonus." She started crying. "Thank you. You don't know what this means to me." "I think I do," I said. I remembered the feeling of wet shoes and hopelessness. I really do. Arthur Miller passed away 3 years later. The funeral was massive. Senators and celebrities were there. But the front rows weren't for them. They were for the employees. I gave the eulogy. "Arthur didn't build a company," I said. "He built a family. He taught me that a flat tire isn't a disaster. It's an opportunity. He taught me that kindness is a currency that never loses value." After the funeral, I went back to the office. I sat in my chair and looked at the city skyline. I opened my desk drawer. Inside was the old rusted lug wrench from that day. I had kept it. It was my reminder. My phone rang. It was Linda. "I heard about Arthur," she said. "I'm sorry, Jamie." "Thanks, Linda. How are you?" "I'm good," she said. "I'm the vice president at the logistics company now. We just started a spare tire fund for our drivers who have emergencies." I smiled. "That's great, Linda. That's really great." "I just wanted to say thank you," she said, "for stopping for me too." So, what did I learn from getting fired? I learned that fear is a terrible leader. It works for a little while, but it breaks people in the end. Kindness builds things that last. I learned that rules are there to guide us, not to blind us. Miss Halloway followed the rules, but she lost her humanity. Arthur broke the rules and he saved a company. And I learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing. Getting fired was the most painful moment of my life. I felt worthless. But if I hadn't been fired, I would still be an assistant, terrified of the clock. I would never have met Arthur. I would never have found my voice. The rain that day didn't ruin my life. It washed away the path I was on so I could find a new one. If you are reading this, maybe you are stuck in a job you hate. Maybe you have a boss like Miss Halloway. Maybe you are afraid to take a risk. Or maybe you are just running late. My advice? Take a breath. Look around. If you see someone who needs help, stop. Stop the car. Help them with the tire. Buy the coffee for the person crying at the table next to you. Hold the elevator. Yes, you might be late. Yes, you might get in trouble. You might even get fired. But trust me, you never know who is sitting in that broken down car. It might be your future. And even if it isn't a billionaire, even if it's just a regular person having a bad day, it's still worth it. Because at the end of the day, you have to live with yourself. And it's a lot easier to live with yourself when you know you stopped. I'm Jamie. I was fired for being late, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me.